Howdy, and welcome back to From the Ground Up, a tech exchange unbrokered podcast that dives deep into the world of energy, resources, and the evolving global landscape. We're exploring the complexities of mining, energy transition, and the critical role these industries play in shaping our future. Today, we're talking about the intersection of venture capital and decarbonization of mining and other technologies. We're joined by Bachimek, co-founder of Nomadic Venture Partners. Bachimek, welcome to the show. Nomadic Ventures is at the forefront of investing in innovative solutions, transforming the mining industry and accelerating the transition to a sustainable future. Could you tell our listeners about Nomadic Venture Partners and what's your firm's unique investment focus on the mining and energy transition landscape?
Sure. Thanks for having me. So Nomadic Venture Partners, we're an early stage climate tech venture capital firm. So we invest across pre-seed and Series A stages. What's unique is that we have this industry specific view. So we invest across mining, manufacturing, and heavy duty transportation sectors. And when we set out this thesis over 4 years ago at this point, it was pretty evident that the energy transition is going to be built on these core industries, from the critical minerals that go into the batteries, EVs, solar panels, et cetera, to the manufacturing process, as well as how we move these things around the world to ultimately achieve the energy transition. Those fundamental industries needed to be decarbonized. And what we saw was there were a lot of funding that was going in, but most of them were going into later stage companies. So we needed an investment firm that specifically focused on early stage investment opportunities so that we have new solutions ready to tackle decarbonization in heavy industries.
Yeah. I remember when we first met, that was something that you told me back in Chicago and that I learned from Tim and others that you guys focus on, which is very unique. Myself being in the mining industry and in the space as well. But could you explain further the investment criteria when you're looking at these upstream companies in these hard industries? What are you looking for?
Ultimately, we're looking for solutions. There are a lot of different challenges with these heavy duty industries, specifically the mining industry. I think there's a lot of opportunity to solve for a variety of solutions. We're fairly technology agnostic. We're not going to just only invest in AI solutions. We invest in deep tech. We invest in solutions that others may not have really heard of. But ultimately, is that the best solution for that particular problem? That's what we're asking entrepreneurs. The team has to be ready to deliver on that. Usually, we like to see the inventor or a CTO that has hands-on experience, industry experience, and really deliver on continued R&D on that particular side. We also like to see some commercial traction, especially with early stage companies, right? You don't want to solve a vitamin problem. You want to solve the painkiller, right? So what is that painkiller? And are your customers already asking you for that solution? And are they waiting once you're ready to deploy that particular solution? Are they ready to become customers right away? So we're looking for early signals if they don't have revenue already. A lot of our existing investments have had revenue to date. I think our threshold of commercialization is certainly higher than most early stage investment opportunities. We're also looking for mission alignment and founder industry and opportunity fit. If you're not from the mining industry per se, what sort of expertise are you bringing to the table that can help you accelerate on this ecosystem? And as a climate tech firm, we're looking for significant decarbonization opportunities.
I would imagine that a lot of our listeners, they would be scratching their heads. The whole purpose of this podcast was to focus on the upstream, the hard industries. What minerals, raw materials do we actually need to develop the solutions for tomorrow? Because if you can't grow,
If it can't be grown, it has to be mined.
there you go. If it can't be grown, it has to be mined. Yes. So that being said, thanks for picking up there. Mining is often seen with our legacy, traditional mining, coal miner's daughter, Tommy Lee Jones, underground. What kind of technologies or solutions are you guys interested in or might be investing in that we should look out for to decarbonize the sector?
As I mentioned earlier, I think there are a lot of opportunities. As a firm, we're fairly technology agnostic. But as a venture capitalist, we have to be capital efficient, right? We don't have multi-billion dollars to deploy into one solution. So what are some solutions that we can deploy as quickly as possible that's going to have the largest impact, from cost savings, efficiency, increasing revenue for that mining company, to the environmental impacts? So we need things that can go to market as fast as possible, has a huge impact, but also technologies that are capital efficient ultimately.
imagine when you go out, because I believe you guys are based in Denver, or is it Golden?
Denver and Chicago team.
And I've met you guys down in Chicago. We missed each other a couple of times in Denver. But what are some challenges that are prevalent and opportunities for engineers, particularly entrepreneurs, to solve that might be of interest to you guys? Anything that you could elaborate on? Maybe there's a challenge that you guys have seen in the tech space that hasn't yet been solved, or a solution that's yet to be engineered for tomorrow.
We haven't made a bet on comminution just yet, but I think that's certainly a big opportunity. And a lot of the solutions that have come online related to comminution, the act of breaking rocks down, they tend to be very capital intensive. So we're looking for solutions that could reduce the energy intensity of comminution process, which there are statistics anywhere from 4 to 6+% of global energy is consumed on just breaking rocks down. So how do we do that more effectively, but in a cash efficient way? We have yet to find out, but we're certainly looking for opportunities on that front. So if anyone's working on technologies related to combination, please do reach out.
I have there's a couple actually at the climate tech event. They were at M Hub that come to mind, but I can share those with you offline if you haven't already interviewed them or considered them. As we both know, it can take decades for for a mining operation to break even and turn profit. So what are some key differences and factors that you notice when taking into account these capital intensive mineral processors specifically?
So when we're looking at new innovation, we're looking for things that can be plugged into existing infrastructure, right? So if it takes many years to get the permit, to get that project off the ground, as well as to build a mine, it takes multi-billion-dollar investment and many years to build that mine. So for an existing mining project to apply new technology, they have to consider the cost of that existing infrastructure and investment that's been made already. So for a newcomer to say, hey, I can increase your output by XYZ, but how does that compare to the way that they're doing, as well as the upfront cost that it's going to take to implement that new processes? So we're looking for opportunities that can be plugged into existing infrastructure, perhaps cut out a certain piece of it, but it can't be a huge cost investment upfront as well, because as a miner, you're also considering does this create financial opportunities for my business? So it has to be, the cost has to be certainly an opportunity that you have to consider, whether that be cost savings ongoing, but also the costs that it take to build that project.
That brings to mind something I was working on this morning, particularly in construction. As a founder myself, I'm still involved. And so I'm running my own construction project. But one of the things that I thought was feasible when bidding, bringing a new perspective to bids, was take these old light fixtures, they're 277 volt, and you're pulling this much amperage and you're spending this much on your utility bill, counting for all of the lights. And then making the differences. Option one is the bare minimum for what the city or the state requires for their climate action policy. Or option two, replacing all of the fixtures and then show them their cost savings in the short run and in the long run to provide them decision makers with different options and saying, here's a feasibility of what you could get if you did it this way, or if you went with option two, and how much you would save. Applying that to the mining industry, I feel like a lot of small miners out there, they would probably want to know the same differences. What is this going to cost me? What is the benefit in the short run? What is the benefit in the long run? They can do that with shovels and loaders. We learned this in fundamentals. It was like this size cat truck, this size shovel, and we can produce this amount of ore. And this is how much that ore will cost at this rate, at this time of day. But outside of that, there are plenty of other cost savings, whether it's in software or the actual technology that they're using. There's so much opportunity there to be explored. Okay, let's run through a little bit fairly quickly, actually, of some fundamentals just going down the line here. So let's switch gears and I'll ask a few other questions. We like to call this a rapid fire round. So what are the most promising technologies that y'all are considering today? What are the challenges to the technologies themselves at this stage?
Sure. So we're looking at technologies that are drop-in fuel replacements for diesel. So anything that, again, going back to the taking existing infrastructure and applying a decarbonized solution that also saves money. That's certainly an area of interest for us. I mentioned comminution already. I think there's a lot of opportunity on the waste stream side. So extracting resources from mine tailings to extracting resources from wastewater and things like that. I haven't talked much about our portfolio companies yet, but we have made an investment into an exploration technology company recently called Vectors. So they're essentially using water as a data source to understand whether there are critical minerals subsurface. So creating new data that can inform exploration. And then they also have an application on environmental services and a remediation process. So that's an exciting area that we think is going to be a true game changer for the industry. So pre-seed stage, the technologies aren't fully developed yet. Usually you have a prototype, you've got some early deployment, or some companies are still lab stages. So certainly the development side, product development is important. I think the deployment side is also interesting. A lot of mining companies are risk averse to begin with, and many don't have R&D or innovation budgets to play with. So as a new company, that's addressing a challenge in an incumbent industry that's risk averse. There are a handful of challenges to try to get the first pilot project going. I do see a lot of mining companies that are leaning in and trying new things, which is really exciting to see. But ultimately, who's going to bear the cost of that? The other piece is team, as there aren't many mining engineers, young people that are going into the mining industry. So if you're building a technology company that's for the mining industry, how do you attract the right team members so that you can continue to further develop? I think that's really interesting. At the end of the day, you have to solve for a big challenge, but you have to consider the time it takes to get there, the costs. Are you creating more value for your end consumer? The environmental impacts, as we all try to achieve net zero goals at some point. What sort of carbon emission reductions are you achieving? Are you reducing the water usage? Are you creating new processes that reuses some of these critical resources that we have? And then the other big piece that mining industry deals with is community buy-in, right? These projects show up in the middle of Gobi Desert to in places like Utah. So how do you make sure that you're developing solutions that can address some of these pain points that mining industry has dealt with for many decades?
In that same line of thought, we are talking about optimism. How do you feel about the future? Reflecting on your time at Nomadic, I know that you've invited me to recently to your climate tech event in Chicago. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed it. I got to meet with some founders and a lot of great people there, and it gives me hope. And I'm very optimistic about the future that there are solutions being created.
Definitely optimistic. The reason why I started Nomadic Venture Partners with my business partner, Tim, was because we felt like there were a lot of young people like yourself who are dedicating their time and their career towards solving for climate change. And if you look at the numbers, the new, climate technologies are built on critical minerals. So we see a huge influx of AI, ML professionals that are now applying their expertise into the mining sector. Folks who had earned their biotech creds in pharmaceutical industry now applying that expertise in the mining sector. So it's really exciting to see young people and people who have, strong expertise apply their talents to solving for some of these challenges. And then at a global level, the UN has started a panel on responsible mining. There is the World Economic Forum that started running sustainable mining challenges, which we've been part of as judges. And governments are stepping up and trying to figure out how to actually get the resources that we need to build these energy transition products in the end. So you're going to see like push and pull from all different angles. And I think that's going to create a significant opportunity for us to invest in for many years down the road. And on a personal note, I'm a Mongolian immigrant, and I've grown up hearing about the challenges as well as the opportunities of the mining sector, given over 90% of exports in Mongolia are tied to the mining sector. We want to see the industry thrive because it is an economic development opportunity for many developing countries, but we have to do it in a way that is beneficial to everybody, the local communities, the environment, the end customers, et cetera, et cetera. And when that balance is off, there's going to be challenges for those projects to continue to thrive in the long run. So if we need to get more resources long term and live in a world that is of abundance, we have to do this industry correctly. And I think innovation certainly plays a strong role in that.
I think that's a good note for us to leave off. Any last words? Anything that you'd like to share? Maybe some portfolio companies?
Sure, I can share a couple of portfolio companies. So Strayos, we invested in a company that's more of an enterprise SaaS company. So they do 3D visualization with AI application on top of that, and they specifically target mining aggregates industry. So we're really excited about the progress that they've made and being able to also reduce the energy intensity of the industry. We've made a couple of bets on biotech specifically. There are a lot of advancements in biotechnology that can be applied to the mining sector. So we invested in two companies, one called Endolith, the other called Maverick Biometals, who are applying that cutting edge microbiology to extract copper, lithium, rare earths, et cetera, so that we can get more resources from the existing mines, as well as reduce the heavy usage of chemicals and waste from the industry. Um, I'm already starting to think about our next industrial climate tech summit, which usually happens in the fall. So if anyone's interested, we're happy to keep you updated on the next event. That's an annual event that we host, really bringing the ecosystem together. Look out for more webinars for our end. We definitely look for opportunities to share knowledge and bring in the right speakers so that the overall ecosystem is well informed about new up and coming or address specific challenges that they may have. In terms of contacting me, it's fatimeg@nomadicvp.com, so don't hesitate to reach out. If you're an entrepreneur solving for some of these challenges, we do have an open form on our website that we do definitely look at and get back to folks on. So thank you for
Awesome.
having me.
It was great to have you on, and we encourage our listeners to connect with you at Nomadic Venture Partners to learn more about your work. And of course, keep coming back to From the Ground Up, a tech exchange and brokered podcast as we continue to explore the frontiers of energy and innovation. Thank you.